Welcome to the Great Distraction.
What's up, folks? This is The Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is origin of common phrases. My name is Ben, and with me today are my co-host Thomas.
How's it going?
And Glenn.
Hello, folks.
Thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with, if nothing else, something to ponder. As always, we'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments, and topic suggestions are always welcome. You can contact us on Facebook or by email at greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com. And just a reminder, if you are listening to our podcast on a Apple device, please take a moment to leave us a rating and review and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out on the Apple rankings, and we appreciate the love and support. Origins of common phrases. I think we were just bored when we came up with this one. Because there's I can't remember which one triggered this, but it got us thinking, and we put together a list, and we've just been adding to it for I don't know how many months now, and it's grown and grown and grown of these phrases that we've always kind of wondered where they came up with or where they come from. So we thought, well, we actually might have enough to fill up an entire episode.
Maybe.
So it may be. So we're going to give it a shot here. And, again, this is one of those things that's just kind of a mental munchie, just randomness that, I don't know. I've always been fascinated by where sayings come from. We use so many sayings and phrases. We use so many of them in our culture that... and we just, I feel like most people don't take a minute to think about what they might actually mean or where they originated from or how old are they or I don't know. So I've always found that information fascinating to know for the sayings I had heard throughout the course of my life and thought, now it's probably a lot of other people.
Where the hell did that come from? Why do you say that?
What the heck do they mean? Or some of them, like, why do we even say that? That makes absolutely no sense.
But it did in 1710.
Yeah, or it did in old world England, So we're just going to quite literally go through a list here and give a meaning, the saying or the phrase, give a meaning and give an origin to the best that we were able to establish. And keep in mind that some of these nobody really knows for sure, but a lot of these are where they came from or how they came about. But for the most part, these are all best guess, or some of them they actually know for sure. But some of them are just so old and what's the term?
Jurassic.
No, besides that, it's just kind of colloquialism or is that the right term? Anyway. There's just no way to track or trace the origin of it down to a precise, this is the moment that someone first said this or it was first used. Some things that are written, that's a lot easier.
But you know what's crazy? I don't know if you noticed this when you were doing a little bit of research for things. A lot of the phrases that seem fairly familiar were either written by people like Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Or a lot of writers from about the 1300s to about the 1700s.
Yeah.
So playwrights and people like that, as they were coming up with ideas for a story or a play or something like that, that was a terminology that they were being creative, so they were coming up with something. So a lot of these phrases don't really mean a whole lot of anything. A lot of them are just something that a writer may have come up with that fit a story or something.
Yep. I have actually one from Aesop, from Aesop's Fables, that's just similar to that.
Yeah, but I ran into a lot of them from Shakespeare.
Oh, did you? So let me kick this off with one that this is as far back as I can remember. This was the first phrase or saying, I don't know, let's use that term interchangeably, that I had remember hearing. I think I was in grade school when I heard this, and one of my teachers, I don't even remember if it was a male or a female, to be honest, at this point, but I remember them describing, using the term, and then they made it a point to present to the class or explain to the class where this saying came from. And it has stuck with me ever since. And so much the fact that I thought years ago, man, maybe they just made that up. Well, with the birth of the internet and all this wonderful information we have out there, I was actually able to verify that there's quite a few people that believe this was the actual origin. So the saying was the rule of thumb. And I don't know if you've ever heard this one, but we'll try and give a meaning for each one and maybe how it's used. But the definition or the meaning I found was a common ubiquitous benchmark. And you would use this like, I have to think of examples for everyone. I should have wrote down examples, I guess, for everyone. You'd say, let's say, I got one, that a foot, like 12 inches a foot, can be guesstimated by the length of your foot. So if you want to measure a distance, you can walk toe to toe and get an idea. That's a rule of thumb, right? So that's how that expression is used. So the interesting thing is that the origin of this, and this is the same thing I heard when I was a child, and what I found on the internet when I started researching for this topic, was that a 17th century English judge, Sir Francis Buller, ruled that it was permissible for a husband to beat his wife with a stick, given that the stick was no wider than his thumb. And that, fucked up as it may be, was the rule of thumb.
Yep, that's the one I ran into when we were talking about that one.
Nice.
But this is, to me, that just seems like so barbaric, Jurassic.
A lot of these are barbaric
kind of things,
I totally learned that during what was it?
Elementary school.
Boondock Saints.
Oh no!
Oh yeah,
it said it in there.
Yes,
that was a good movie too. The sequel was terrible, but that one.
Well, the first one, man.
First one was a good movie. Yeah.
All sequels kind of suck. So.
I mean, that's
a rule of thumb.
Most of them. Wait. Do you hypothesize about that, or is this an actual theory? Do you just have a hypothesis about this?
Well, I haven't really formed a test for this, so
we actually could test this. We could. I guess you could base it on ratings of all sequels that you could find, and see what the average of the ratings versus the first one was. And I guess you could.
I think we already kind of have a conclusion.
We already have a theory going. See, we just need to collect that data. Okay, the next one I've got is...
Hurry up and write down some numbers, Glenn.
Yeah, there you go. There's your data. The next
Make up some statistics.
Yeah.
You know, 75% of all statistics are made up.
On the spot.
On the spot. At a table like this.
Yeah,
right.
Man. All right, the next one I've got is Balls to the Wall.
Oh, my gosh.
Right.
That was the name of a really good metal song back in the 80s.
That doesn't surprise me.
A band called Accept. They had a breakthrough song called Balls to the Wall.
Balls to the Wall. Well, here's what it actually... So what it means is to go all out or to give it everything you got. You're going full throttle, balls to the wall. And actually, full throttle is closer than any other meaning I've heard it used in before. Let's see. So the origin is in the 1960s in the context of aviation. Apparently, and I'll try and make this as interesting as quick as possible here, aircraft have up to 3 controls per power plant: throttle control, mixture control in aircraft with reciprocating power plants, and propeller RPM control. But in an aircraft with a variable speed propeller, these controls can be either plungers that you push the ball end into the firewall for maximum power setting, or a lever with a ball top that you push upwards towards the firewall for maximum power setting. Thus, putting the balls to the walls gives the aircraft the maximum power output for takeoff. So literally, the handles on the throttle lever to make it go more, to put more power into it, was a physical sphere, a ball, and you push that towards the firewall, which is the wall where all the gauges are or whatever on the plane, and that's balls to the walls.
Wow. It sort of reminds me of the whole 9 yards.
I have that. That's the next one I've got right here. So that's the next one I have on the list. So the whole 9 yards. The meaning, to try your best at something. Its origin is World War II. It's from World War II. During World War II, the fighter pilots were equipped with a 9-yard long chain of ammunition. When they ran out, it meant that they had tried their best at fighting off the target with the entirety of their ammunition. So that's the whole 9 yards. Putting all your bullets out there, and whatever. If you accomplish your task, great. If not,
right. That's all you got. That's it. You put everything you had on the line.
That's it.
Jesus.
Speaking of Jesus.
Speaking of Jesus,
that's a great segue to my next one. This one has always irked me because, well, I'll read it here. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Meaning, treat others as you wish to be treated yourself. And the reason this one irks me is because since I was young, I had heard, oh, that's from the Bible. That's from the Bible. Yes, maybe it was used in the Bible, but it is definitely not from or originating from the Bible. It came long before that religion was ever even created. Contrary to, let's see, where was I here? It dates back as far as 2200 BC during ancient Egypt times. and which would be older than 2000 BC. So yeah, you'll have I'll have to check that date. I might have typoed that. Anyway, the other aspect, so it definitely was not Christianity that came up with that. And in fact, further to that point, in 1993, it was accepted by 143 leaders encompassing the world's major faiths as, quote unquote, the Golden Rule. So if you've ever heard anyone say the Golden Rule, that is actually what they're referring to. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And 143 religious leaders, all different denominations, agree that that is the ethical rule that humans should follow.
Wow.
So that's pretty big, man. That's pretty crazy to have one thing that all these different religious people agreed upon. That's crazy.
Wow. That might be the only thing they really agree on.
That might be the only thing, be it a monotheistic or polytheistic religion. That might be the only thing. How about don't look a gift horse in the mouth? So this one is confusing when I finally understood what it meant because it's not written right, in my opinion. It should read, don't look in the mouth of a gifted horse. That makes more sense because the meaning is that it is basically it's rude to immediately check the value of a gift that's been given to you. And the origin is because horses' gums apparently recede with age, so which leads to longer looking teeth. And a common way to inspect a horse's worth is to check its mouth just to see how old it is and how much life it has left and therefore how much you should be paying for it. Receiving a horse as a gift and immediately inspecting its value was considered offensive, much like inquiring about the worth of a present when you get it. So that's why you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Again, I don't like how that's even said, man. I think it should.
I know, and that's a lot of weird old phrases, where they their origin, if it was English,
yes,
versus some other way, based on the actual way it was phrased is kind of strange, and then the way it was transferred to like Western culture too.
Yes, yes, definitely. Definitely makes some of them sound really weird to us versus they sounded like made perfect sense where they originated from. Let's see. Oh, don't count your chickens before they're hatched. So the meaning of this one is basically don't count on what you can't control or don't expect that hasn't happened yet. It's actually I found that kind of difficult to describe in any other terms other than don't count your chickens before you hatch. But it came from it came from Aesop's fables. This one actually was written by Aesop, so we definitely know the origin of this one. And it was from a very short story. And the story is basically to the gist of this. A girl had a thought. This is just an excerpt of the story, kind of the end of it or whatever. But a girl had a thought. The milk and her thought was, the milk in this pail that she's carrying will provide me with cream, which I will make into butter, which I will sell in the market, and buy a dozen eggs, which will hatch into chickens, which will lay more eggs, and soon I shall have a large poultry yard. I'll sell some of the fowls, some of the chickens, and buy myself a handsome new gown and go to the fair. And when all the young fellows try to make their move on me, I'll toss my head and pass them by. At that moment, the girl tossed her head and lost the pail of milk. And her mother looked at her and said, don't count your chickens before they're hatched.
Wow.
Yeah, teach you a valuable lesson.
Some daydreaming going on there.
Yeah, thought you had it all figured out, and there you go.
Pay attention where you're going, kid.
Now, the next one is don't cry over spilled milk.
Right?
Right. That was the next lesson they had to teach her. It's spilt. Go get some more milk. Try again.
I lost my chickens. Now I'm losing my milk.
Lost your gown. You lost
my
everything,
gown.
man. You're not getting any of the local tail down there at the fair. You're done. Okay. Hair of the dog that bit you.
This is a good one.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard this one, which surprises me, oh dang! I thought of another one. Anyway, sorry. If you totally lost my train of thought. Another one hit me. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't think of that one before. Okay, if you haven't heard this one, hair of the dog that bit you, or hair of the dog, period, is a term we drunkards use. You wake up the next day with a hangover, and sometimes you can eat something greasy. Sometimes you can just take some ibuprofen, Advil, whatever. Sometimes you can just drink a bunch of water. Sometimes you can go for a run, drink some vitamins, whatever, and you can knock off that hangover. But sometimes there is a hangover that is so damn persistent, you still feel nauseous or a headache or whatever into the next night or into the next evening, afternoon, whatever. It just won't go away. Well, having another drink, even if it's just one, you don't have to drink as heavily as you did the night before. Have a beer or have a mixed drink, you will like instantly feel better. It
works.
Unreal how well it works.
Yeah.
And you can see how this could probably lend to alcoholism if you continually,
What?
Yeah, if you continually binge drink every night to deal with the previous night's problem.
Avoid hangovers.
Yeah.
Stay drunk.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the end. That's the cure-all right there. But
I got a drinking problem. I got 2 hands and 1 mouth.
yes, that is actually how it's used. It is the hair of the dog that bit you. Now, where does that come from? Well, the meaning I found for it was that it was a medieval saying, and it originated from the belief that once bitten by a rabid dog, the victim would be cured by applying the same dog's hair to the wound. So, yeah.
So you have a rabid dog bite you that has rabies and all scurvy and anything else it had in medieval times, and then you're going to take its hair, which is probably...
You got to hunt it down first. You got to find this rabid dog. Cut off a lock of hair.
Right. Talk it into chilling out for a minute so you can get some hair from it.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's a rabid dog.
Right. What do? Shoot it and then just take the hair away? What do you have, like a small passage of time before the hair dies out and it doesn't cure it like it should?
Yeah. So that is actually the hair of the dog that literally bit you. The hair of the rabid dog that literally bit you.
Well, I think that all of these, the ones that, going back to my phrase of Jurassic technology, all of these medieval ones fall perfectly.
Oh yeah. There's I have a couple more here too that are of that time period, or very, a lot of this comes from superstition or people. We didn't have any other means to know any
frame
different.
of reference.
We had no different, man. I mean, you had to make up something.
Right. That rabid dog bit you. You better rub his hair in your wound.
Yeah, and if this is kind of like the Salem witch trial test, right? If it floats when you drowned it was a witch or something like that. Either way, it's dead in the end. Well, this is kind of like the thing. This is the rabid dog thing. It's like, oh, you couldn't catch the dog. Well, that's why you died. There's your reason, because that's what we told you. You had to get the damn hair from the dog.
Now you're infected.
Yeah, and if you did catch it and it bit you again, well, now you're in double trouble. So forget it. The hair on that wound ain't going to help you anyway. They had to leave themselves ways out, to explain why it didn't work.
Naturally.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's got to have some way out, man. You're a learned scholar in this town. You got to have all the answers.
Right.
How about hands down? You ever heard that? Hands down, this is the best hamburger I've ever had. Hands down, he's the best welder I know. Hands down. That's the end all be all. When you win hands down, you win easily. I guess that was the meaning I found here. So I guess the origin comes from horse racing, where if you're way ahead of everyone else, you can relax your grip on the reins and let your hands down. I guess it's a way of jockeys talking shit, huh?
I guess they're showboating.
Look at that asshole.
Showboating.
With his hands down.
I'm so far ahead of these guys.
I don't even need to hold the reins.
I don't need to hold the reins.
This horse drives itself, rides itself.
Rides itself.
He's over there using one hand to feed it treats.
nice.
Damn, dude. What the hell? Oh, this one's weird. Talk about another like medieval sounding one here. Saved by the Bell.
I kind of remember this one.
Okay.
Wasn't that a 90s TV show?
Yeah.
Yes,
that was stupid too.
Okay.
Oh, I liked it.
You just liked it because it had a cute girl in it.
I had several cute girls in it, actually.
Okay. It did have more than one?
I did.
Okay.
So the meaning...
Is that the one Screech was on?
Screech, yes, that is the one. And he wasn't in the first season or first 2 seasons. Yeah, he actually came later.
It's probably losing ratings, I think.
Yeah, so funny you should mention that. The first season of that actually wasn't called Saved by the Bell. It was like it was the name of the teacher. Mrs. Something's Classroom or something like that was the name of it before it was Saved by the Bell. So when a whole season of that, same cast, not all the characters were in it, but the same cast, and then it started over again into season 1 of Saved by the Bell.
Wow.
Funny.
More you know.
Yeah. And knowing is half the battle. Okay, Saved by the Bell. The meaning is rescued from an unwanted situation at the last second, so to speak, or by some outside acting upon source. Okay, the origin. This is weird. Apparently, some people, take it back. Apparently, being buried alive by accident was a common occurrence. I don't know how this happened. I guess bad diagnosis by a doctor. They didn't know things could put you unconscious or make you look like you were dead, like you weren't breathing. I don't know. Anyway, apparently it was a common occurrence. And being buried alive or being buried after they thought you were dead was something that happened to people or that they believed happened to people. So people who feared succumbing to such a fate were buried in special coffins that had a bell connected to them above ground, so that in the case that they woke up, they could be in there, found themselves buried in this coffin. They could pull the string, ring the bell, and the guards that would hang out in the cemeteries or wherever would know that they were actually alive. Now, I would love to find some recorded data of cases where this actually saved somebody's life.
Wow.
But,
I wonder, could you imagine that?
dude.
Well, back in the day, lots of people got buried alive. It
What?
was common because people like if you're in a slight coma or maybe
But you're still breathing. Your heart did they not check? There were no pulses back then.
Yeah, but in like 1310, the average person had the IQ of like a second grader.
He not open eye. He dead.
Did you know Jesus's as skills were overrated?
Wow.
It's all circus acts. If you had a good circus act back then, you could rule.
I know. Damn.
So I could see people being buried alive pretty easy. But yeah, I remember hearing that one before, and I thought that's crazy. So they have this crazy special coffin or something. Is that in your will?
The way
you
I
leave
had
it in your will. Hey, I'm going to put that in my will.
Yeah. The way I saw it, like there was actually a couple of hand drawings that I had seen that maybe somebody scanned out of an old books or something. It looked like a normal coffin, wooden coffin, right? And then it looked like, if you built like a square rectangle that extended from like a little hole on the top of the coffin that went all the way up to the ground, right?
That was a string.
And there was a string inside that square. What do you call that? Not a cylinder. If it were round, it would be a cylinder. What do you call it when it's a
Tube.
tube? But a tube is usually
Square
round.
tube.
A square tube. Okay, fine. If you imagine a square tube of wood that extended from about the chest area of the top of the coffin all the way up to the top of the ground, and that was where the string was, and the string dangled inside the coffin, and then there was a little bell on a hanger.
That would smell nasty after a couple weeks.
Oh, that's a good point. Ooh, it would be a hole straight into the coffin.
Everything smelled back then, though.
Well, if Thomas said so.
Well, people only took baths like once a year.
I did read that too.
Did
about some other stuff.
Yeah,
that fell across that
about
too.
the same era back then. People would take, and this is I thought crazy.
That's
I read
why they
this
invented perfume.
Well, like a family would take a bath like once a year.
Oh, baby in the bathwater. That's where it came from.
That's the one. That's the one.
I don't know if I believe that shit. So because you brought it up, we're gonna say that one. I left it off because I thought it was kind of silly. Throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
I guess what the meaning of the saying or how it's used is be careful that you don't miss. How would you use that? Don't they?
Well, so the story goes.
Well, not the meaning, but how would you use it today first? Because use it in context right now.
Throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Be careful you don't throw the baby.
Well,
out
maybe
with
you're
the
cleaning
water.
something, and you got a bunch of small parts in something, and you just want to be.
And the parts you need it looks like a bunch of trash. You know what? I do a lot of my own gun work, and when you start taking apart guns. There's tons of little parts and everything, right? But then if you happen to be on the bench and you're having a bad day and a damn spring shoots off, like literally little springs will shoot out of there if you weren't paying attention to what you're taking apart. That's why you literally have to wear eye protection because those things shoot out with some serious force. And it bounces off the top of the ceiling and then lands. Hopefully you hear, well, sometimes they land in the midst of your workbench and you're like, shit. Some of this is trash, and some of this is the spring I need that I've never seen. So you're like, okay. So at the end of the day, when you're throwing out all of your parts that were garbage or other things that you're working on or whatever, you have to be careful that you don't throw the spring out or the thing out that you needed along with all the garbage. That's, I guess, the best concept.
I think it was more the water was so dirty that you couldn't see the baby.
Well, that was the angle,
Right.
yeah. So apparently where that came from is back in the day when people were only showering once a year. Bathing once a year, they would use the same water because it took forever to fill up a tub and they had to sit there and hand pail it back.
Oh, yeah. And can you imagine trying to heat all that water by hand?
Yeah,
that would take forever,
assuming they
man.
reheated it anyway. But
Go cold.
Yeah, and apparently the way the bathing order was that the man of the house and the oldest man of the house would go first, the women next, and the baby last. The baby's last, or the kids and the baby's last.
So you didn't want to accidentally throw the baby out.
Yeah, so apparently that water was so
bathwater.
dirty and murky from their once a year bath.
I know, wouldn't you be thinking, hey,
like,
honey,
what
I don't think it's a good idea to bathe the baby in this.
I mean, well, they didn't know anything about germs and anything back
That's
then
true.
at all. But seriously though, how big of shits were you washing off yourself that they're the size of that it's an actual concern your baby might go out.
If your whole family is only taking a bath once a year and you're using the same tub of water, I imagine it's pretty
No wonder
filthy.
they didn't live that long, man. The baby's sitting there drinking that.
I know.
That,
I'm surprised kids live to be more than a year old.
A lot of them didn't.
That's true. Hey, this is why. Maybe that's why we've discovered some reality
Your
here.
kid died of dysentery.
Right.
Wow.
Dad's
okay.
ball sweat swipe.
That is just sick. How about more than you could shake a stick at? You guys know this one?
I know this one.
Okay.
I've heard it. I don't know what it.
Okay, so the meaning is having more of something than you need. Like, man, if you had $1 million, you could buy more ices than you could shake a stick at.
Right.
I
Wasn't
guess,
it something to do with like goat herding or
yeah,
something?
yeah.
Like that?
So its origin is farmers controlled their sheep by shaking their staves to indicate staffs, not stab, staves to indicate where the animals should go. When farmers had more sheep than they could control, it was said that they had more sheep than they could shake a stick at.
Nice.
There you go.
That one seems more plausible than the baby.
Yeah.
It does.
You know, and it could have been too that don't throw the baby out with the bathwater was more of an expression. Like moms and women, the wife running the home looked down at that water, and she was probably talking to her girlfriend later that day, and she's like, "Man, that water was so that water was so dirty. I was scared I was going to throw my baby out with it." You know, I mean, it was probably something said in truth said in jest type thing, right? All right.
Jesus.
How about turn a blind eye?
I don't remember this one.
Do you guys know this?
I remember that.
You know the
phrase.
saying?
I've heard it.
Okay.
But I don't remember that.
So to turn a blind eye is to ignore a situation, facts, or reality and do what you're going to do. It's kind of like if somebody tells you, don't touch that fire, you're going to get burned. Oh, fuck, I'm going to turn a blind eye. I'm just going to touch it anyway. It's like you kind of do it without, even despite better advice,
right.
You're still going to do it. Apparently, this one dates back to an actual individual. Apparently, he was a British naval hero. His name was Admiral Horatio Nelson. And he had one blind eye. And there was a particular battle when British forces had signaled for him to stop attacking. It was stop attacking a fleet of Danish ships. And he held up a telescope to his, so it's said, claimed by by the men that were on his ship. He held up a telescope to his blind eye and said, "I don't see the signal." He attacked anyway and was actually victorious. And that's why he got remembered not for being an idiot, but for being the guy who turned a blind eye.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing how things work out when you ignore stuff.
If only everything went that way.
Right? I just turn a blind eye to everything, and next thing I know, I'd be a rich man.
I'm a millionaire. How'd you get this way? I just gave up on
I
everything.
just turned a blind eye. Okay, so this one, I don't know if I understand it, but I'll read it anyway. Kick the bucket.
Oh, this is a good one. I like this one.
So if you remember something better, a better definition of the origin for this, because this one kind of confused me with how they defined it, and I couldn't find a better origin, a better definition of the origin. So kicking the bucket means to die. Somebody dies, they kick the bucket. The origin: when a cow was killed at a slaughterhouse, a bucket was placed under it while it was positioned on a pulley, I guess to drain the blood out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes the animal's leg would twitch or kick during the adjustment of the rope, and it would literally kick the bucket before being killed. So what I don't understand is they hung them before they were killed?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess
So
it would
I had
be
seen one-
how would they? I thought they slit their throat back then.
And that's what I was going off of. I had seen something, a movie or something where they had done this, and I think this is kind of brutal, but I thought that they had hung the cow by the back legs, and it was hanging upside down, and then they slit the throat and basically let it bleed out through the jugular into a conveyor belt that was like, or a hook that was like hanging them and sliding them around. And then there was one guy who was, imagine a conveyor above coming from the ceiling with hooks that they have the feet bound together, legs bound together, and the hook is holding on the rope that's binding the legs. So they're hanging upside down. They slit the throat, they slide it down. One guy's sitting there just slitting throats all day long. That was what I saw, and I was like,
So is he a slitter?
Shit, he's a slitter, dude. He's a star. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I didn't understand about that is since that was my reference, they're hanging upside down. How are they kicking with their front legs, I guess? I don't get it. So I don't understand how the leg can kick the bucket.
Did you find anything else on that one?
No, that was it.
Because I heard another one before. Another one once before was I heard that one too, but I also heard one where it was popular. I'm gonna remove the word popular before I start the sentence.
Let me read.
Because after I say it, she'll be like, "Oh, that's." But at some point in time, people would hang themselves, and they would use a bucket to stand up on to get the rope up high enough.
Okay.
And when they would get high enough, they would kick the bucket.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then they would
That makes more sense.
That does
to me.
make more sense. Yeah. There's a lot of these I found multiple meanings for, and I
Yeah.
would try and look up alternate sources to see if they. But I mean, more than likely, the alternate sources just picked one or the other.
Right.
It's like, so
Yeah.
how do you don't really know for sure, but
Yeah, because I heard the one about the cow thing too, and I was the same thing. I was like, how does a cow kick the? I mean, I could understand it. A horse bounces around when you're doing stuff. Dealing with a cow probably the same way. But yeah, the one I had always remembered hearing was back in the day when people would hang themselves, a bucket was a common item.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they would stand up on this bucket to get up the height to tie the rope, and then they would kick the bucket out from under themselves.
Hell of a way to go, man. Just eat a bullet. You'll be all right.
Back then, they probably didn't have that option. They're still trying to keep the baby out of the water.
Hell, it's hard nowadays to get a bullet in California.
Right? I know. I think you get a retinal ID or something for them.
Well, when was the last time you actually saw like a bucket?
What do you mean?
Other than being at Home Depot?
Other than like the Home Depot plastic buckets.
Yeah.
Oh,
I had
only
like 10.
plastic
I had like
buckets,
10
yeah.
of those.
The metal tubs, little tin buckets.
Oh, it's only when I go to older people I know's houses.
Well, sometimes
have
I see the
metal
galvanized
buckets.
pails because the glass blowers that we know, some of those guys use it. But that's it. If it wasn't for that.
This guy right here?
Yeah, yeah. And then some of them even use the 50-gallon drums, or
So don't be kicking that bucket.
Yeah,
Glenn.
don't kick
Oh,
that.
that'd be a mess.
Oh, dude. Lots of sharp objects everywhere.
Glass everywhere. Then you probably want to kill
story.
yourself.
True story.
All right, here's another one. Bite the bullet. So biting the bullet means to accept something difficult or unpleasant. And the origin that I found, this one does feel the same way. Like there's probably multiple meanings, but this one is the origin I found. In the olden days when doctors were short on anesthesia or during times of battle, they would ask the patient to bite down on a bullet to distract from the pain. I guess biting on a bullet
remember that one.
would probably hurt pretty bad, actually.
Yeah. I know, like, give me something softer to bite into.
Yeah, a
Seems
piece of wood or
I'm
something.
going to chip my tooth while I'm getting all this other stuff going on,
I'd
too.
rather bite a shoe or something, leather or
Right.
something. Give me
I
a belt.
know.
Take your belt. Let me
Stick
get
my
the belt.
wallet in my mouth. I'm having a seizure.
I mean, man, a leather strap on a gun or something. Anything
Right.
would have been better than a damn bullet.
Yeah.
But maybe it hurt, and that's why they
Yeah.
did that. Who knows?
Maybe it was symbolic.
Ooh, what got you here is also what. Oh man,
Yeah,
that's no.
There's a lot of weird phrases came out of war.
I
and
bet.
wars. A lot of those.
Okay, here's another one that's kind of weird. This is also medieval times.
About to get medieval on your
About
ass.
to get medieval on your asses here. Given the cold shoulder. So this means being unwelcome or antisocial to someone. If you don't want to be around them or don't like them, you give and want them to go, you give them the cold shoulder. Apparently, in medieval England, it was customary to give a guest a cold piece of meat from the shoulder of mutton, pork, or beef when the host felt it was time for the guest to leave. This was a polite way to communicate, you may leave now.
Interesting.
Seems like it works.
I mean, wow.
Next time somebody's at my house, I want them to go.
I'm going to keep around cuts of shoulder meat.
some mutton.
And I'm going to walk up and slap him in the face with it.
What does this mean?
It didn't say. It didn't say how it had to be given.
Can you just put it in their pocket?
Are you trying to slip your meat in somebody's pocket?
That means it's time to go.
I'm going to stand here and play with my cold meat.
Oh,
You're gonna warm it up.
Wow. Can you
You're gonna
imagine?
warm it up first.
Can you imagine? I mean, maybe we do need a socially etiquette acceptable method
I
by
think
which
now
to
you just-
ask somebody to leave.
I think you just text message them though.
While they're in your place, dude,
Yeah.
you're like, dude, you got to go. Can you GTFO? Okay.
The medieval times.
I know. Here's another one. Same thing. Caught red-handed. The meaning, to be caught in the act of doing something wrong. Kind of like caught with your pants down. That's caught red-handed. Caught red-dicked. Gross. The origin. This originates from an old English law that ordered any person to be punished for butchering an animal that wasn't their own. The only way the person could be convicted is if he was caught with the animal's blood still on his hands. Hence the red hands.
Nice.
see, I went somewhere totally different with that one.
That's because you nasty, Glenn.
I want to know where Glenn went.
Yeah, where'd you go?
I'm sure you can imagine.
Was it after I said the pants down thing?
It was.
Red dick? Oh, man. Red Rider? Oh.
Now
You're
I'm
a
starting,
South Park fan?
Now I'm starting to think that you're thinking along the terms of earning your Red Wings.
Pretty
Oh,
much.
that's disgusting. You guys are degenerates.
Yeah.
Right? That's why they like us. All right, here. Bury the hatchet. Meaning to stop a conflict and make peace.
Yep.
I don't know if I believe this origin, but okay. Yeah, I suppose it could be possible. There's probably another one. There's probably another meaning. But anyway,
There always is.
take it for what it is, man. People, this is entertainment. Come
Right.
This one dates back to the early times in North America when the Puritans were in conflict with the Native Americans. Translation: when the English came over here to rape the natives of their land,
steal their land,
and rape their women, and give them religion that they didn't want.
Right.
When negotiating peace, the Native Americans would bury all their hatchets, knives, clubs, and tomahawks. Weapons literally were buried and made inaccessible, and this was to show a sign of peace, basically. We aren't going to attack you. You can walk up and we can talk.
They're burying their weapons.
Burying the hatchet.
Burying the hatchet.
Yeah.
If they didn't have hatchets.
So, but what's interesting is the way I've heard that used, or the way I recall hearing that used, is after the conflict has been resolved. Like Thomas and I got in a fight. We haven't been talking for weeks. We make up. Glenn says, "Oh yeah, they buried the hatchet." Afterwards, this makes it sound like it's preemptive. Like we're still in the fight. Glenn's like, "You guys."
Well, maybe it's a negotiation.
Are we negotiating?
Well, okay, so maybe two parties are not agreeing.
It's parlay.
Exactly.
Oh.
And then,
What'd you call me?
So they decide, well, let's stop fighting. Let's bury the hatchet. So now it's...
And now we can talk.
Now we can, yeah.
Peacefully. I see. So it's preemptive to the talks. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you still got everything tied onto a string so you can pull it out of the dirt real quick. And...
Right. No, wait, that's the bell, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This one's not so great, but whatever.
Not so great?
Yeah, I didn't really like it that much because it seems a little too obvious. Barking up the wrong tree. Meaning to have misguided thoughts about an event or situation or a false lead. All right, so apparently, this one was pretty obvious, I thought, but
right.
You probably guessed. This refers to hunting dogs that may have chased their prey up the tree, and they will be barking, assuming that the prey is still in the tree when the prey is actually no longer there, or maybe in a tree next to it or something. So they're literally barking up the wrong tree.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I thought that was.
I can believe that.
I don't know. I
can
would
believe that
almost remove that when I saw it on the list. I was like, oh, I did leave that on there. Whatever. We'll throw it out there. Maybe somebody's into hunting with a dog and finds that humorous. Didn't already know that. I would think if you were already hunting with a dog, you would have already known this. But nevertheless.
You never know.
If you've ever seen a dog tree an animal.
I have not.
Oh, I've seen a dog tree a bear.
A bear?
What?
Yep. True story.
Damn.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Had a Rottweiler. She was a pup. Her and her
Fearless.
pup mates and the dog's mom. They bared a tree. Or they treed a bear.
Tree a bear. Wow. Okay.
Well, I can see that, though. If something startles them, they don't know what it is. It's their first line of defense.
Run up a tree.
Yeah.
Yep.
The bear might have been young too, right?
But that's what they say. Have you ever heard? If humans, they tell humans if a bear's chasing you, don't run up a tree.
Don't run. Yeah, don't run up a tree and don't run because they can climb and they can run faster than you can.
Uh-huh.
How
Probably
about
spell better too.
How about cat got your tongue? So it's a question, and it's typically asked to a person who is at a loss for words. The origin, the English. Well, there's two of them here. This is an example of two that vary greatly, but you can pick whichever one you like better. The English Navy, the first one, the English Navy used to use a whip called cat o' nine tails for flogging, i.e., whipping bad people or punish people who needed punishment, or they determined need punishment.
Or bedroom fun.
Bedroom fun. The pain was so severe that it was said to cause the victim to stay quiet for a long time. So the cat o' nine tails got your ass. You were quiet afterwards. The one I like better, and the one I actually read the origin I like better, and the one I actually read in multiple places, was that in ancient Egypt, liars and blasphemers had their tongues cut out and fed to cats.
I heard that one. That was one I always knew. Which seems a little bit more realistic.
Yep. Sounds much better.
Yeah, I can totally... Because that was Egyptian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Egyptians were big into cats for lots
Yes.
of weird things.
Apparently feeding tongues, too.
Yeah. Yeah, they fed them good.
Lingua.
Lingua.
Okay. Breaking the ice. This is another one that's pretty obvious, but nevertheless, it's one that gets used quite often, I think. So I figured, that's a good one to throw in there. To break off a conflict or commence a friendship. That's kind of a weird meaning that I found for it too, but more like I think the where it's used most is if two people are having trouble talking, be it they don't like each other, it's a date, they're nervous, whatever. You got to find an icebreaker to kind of get the conversation flowing.
Yeah, free open a path of
communication.
Yeah,
totally. So you don't get communication breakdown.
Also, introductions. I've in my personal experience,
How do you
an
mean?
icebreaker to introduce somebody or getting to know somebody. It's something to start conversations, something to spark off a subject.
I got it. So, origin. Back when road transportation was not developed, ships would be the only transportation and means of trade. At times, the ships would get stuck during the winter because of the ice formations. The receiving country would send small ships to break the ice to clear a way for the trade ships. This gesture showed affiliation and understanding between two territories.
That's one I remember.
Yeah, so it kind of in that effort that they put forward, it kind of was like, hey, we want to remain at least amicable enough to do
free
business.
You from the ice so you don't freeze to death while you're bringing us stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So it was some gesture of peace, I suppose, or just we want your shit and you can die the way going back.
Yeah, yeah, we're not gonna break it to get you out.
Yeah.
Just to get you here.
This is a one-way pass, buddy. Sorry. Hope you enjoy living
Either
here.
convert or die.
Yes. Damn, there's probably some truth to that too. Let's see. Some. Buttering someone up, to butter someone up. So to butter someone up
is so the naked guy could run faster?
Yeah, in his boots. To impress someone with flattery. If you're going to butter them up, you're going to impress them with flattery, yes. So that you can probably ask for something or whatever. Origin. This was a customary religious act in ancient India. The devout would throw butter balls at the statues of their gods to seek favor and forgiveness.
Wow.
I have no idea.
Wonder what butter. Does butter
So
have
the
some
only
other
thing,
sort of
the only thing I can think is, and I don't know
indication
what ancient India believed, or even what India believes now, but nevertheless, I don't. But what I'm thinking though is maybe butter, because you have to churn butter right back then, right? And that was a lot of work.
It was from a cow, which cows are sacred.
Okay, there you go. So now we're taking the sacred milk and working it, because it's a lot of labor to churn butter, right?
Yeah.
Turning it into this substance that takes a lot of labor and time, and then you're offering it as an offering,
Maybe.
but you throw it at the statue?
Because I don't know if it's India. Maybe it is India. Cows are very sacred. It might be India. And when they kill a
I don't know.
Wherever I'm thinking of this, I'll pop it in my brain 10 minutes now. Wherever it is, when they kill the cow, if the cow doesn't fall on the right side, it's a bad omen, and they can't eat the cow. So if they were trying to kill the cow to eat, if the cow started falling over, a bunch of the tribesmen would run over and try to push the cow over to get it to fall over.
So apparently they weren't killing them like we kill them in the slaughterhouse, huh?
Apparently not.
No buckets.
They weren't kicking no buckets.
Yeah. No buckets. They killed them right where they stood, huh?
You just send some buckets to India.
Sheesh, man.
I don't know.
Okay. This is actually the last one I've got, so hopefully you guys...
I had a couple.
Okay, so Mad as a Hatter.
Oh, this is a good one.
I love this one, man. So Mad as a Hatter, meaning to be completely crazy. The origin of this, contrary to popular belief, did not originate from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. Because remember the Mad Hatter and the Tea Party, the Crazy Tea Party?
That was an awesome book.
Dude, it was an awesome book. Awesome. I love all of it. I love Alice in Wonderland. Its origins actually date from the 17th and 18th centuries, well before Lewis Carroll's time, and his book was published. In the 17th century, France, in the 17th century,
you listen to the
France,
Mercury?
Yeah. Hatters were people who made hats, haberdashery. They used mercury to flatten out and to work the felt that the hats were made out of. Well, mercury is poisonous to and seeps into your skin by touching it. So it created what they coined the Mad Hatter disease. And it was marked, or the symptoms were of people who had been regularly affected by this, by shyness, irritability, and tremors that would make the person appear mad or crazy, as they use the term. So,
wow.
Crazy. Mad as a Hatter. A Hatter actually went crazy based on the product he was using to make his hats.
And I think that's probably been that way in several different industries over the decades in time. But it goes back to people drinking out of tin cups.
Yeah, or the lead cup or lead crystal. All that stuff. Yep.
Yeah,
they just didn't know.
Yeah, so if you don't know certain things, and then when the automobile first started becoming serviced by people were dying all the time because they were cleaning brakes that were made of asbestos.
Yep.
So you have all these kind of weird little things in there. Yeah, there's a lot of military phrases, things that came from the military.
Agent Orange.
Well, no, I mean back to the back to
oh.
origins of phrases.
Okay.
You know what? What's the one? Chow something. I was trying to think of it.
Chow? Is it
Chow
for food?
Yeah, chow. You know what that came from?
No.
Chow is the name of a Chinese dog.
I know a chow dog.
And the military, it was slang in the U.S. military to call
it's a derogatory
food
term.
chow because the Chinese, it was a reputation that the Chinese ate their dogs.
Wow.
So it was a slang term for food.
Maybe that's why they don't call it that anymore. They don't call it get chow.
It's probably not PC.
Damn, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
So they were making fun of the Chinese eating their chow dogs.
Get in the chow line.
Chow dog, dude.
Yeah, that's a
brutal.
pretty bad.
Chow down on this.
Chow down on this chow dog.
Right, you've heard of a baker's dozen, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be 13, right? No?
Every 13. So that was
No.
that was a medieval term as well.
Okay.
And so the origin of that was in medieval times, if a baker sold his bread, it was a weight. So if a baker was accused of underselling or not filling the basket with enough bread, they could be imprisoned, they could be beaten, all these other things. So for the bakers to avoid having a confrontation about what they sold, they would throw in an extra piece of bread.
Dang. I thought, wow, okay.
Which is why, I mean, it is typically when somebody, like modern use, if somebody says it's a baker's dozen, they're calling it 13.
Yeah.
But that's the...
And I
it
had
was
been
to
told
keep them from getting in trouble or keep them getting beaten
I'll
because they
be
could be
damned.
imprisoned.
That's awesome. I always heard it was in case you messed one up, you made
Oh, yeah,
13. But I mean, no, okay, wow, cool.
And back to the military one, where the phrase basket case came from?
I didn't even know that was military related. Where?
Well, yeah. Well, it's crazy when you start reading into some of these.
Yes, it's awesome. I had a blast researching for this one.
So basket case, and I thought this was pretty dark in general. This term originated in the U.S. military after World War I, referring to soldiers who had lost their arms and legs and had to be carried by others.
Dang.
Is that freaking dark or what?
Very. Makes me think of nugget porn. If you're bored and not at work, or maybe on your phone, Google,
or not near your girlfriend.
Google nugget porn. Not funny at all. Not funny at all, but crazy that it exists.
Wow. Yeah,
Hey, you know what? Somebody's into it.
And there are
people into
people who
apparently there are people into it because
nuggets.
it's a thing. You even know about it.
I don't even remember how I felt. I think I was reading some random Reddit and somebody was talking about and I was, what the fuck is nugget porn? Okay.
Nugget porn.
Nuggets. What else you got, Tom?
Nugget porn. So back to
You
the...
looked up tomfoolery.
Oh, yeah, right? I never did.
Man, what the hell? You should already know that. What's wrong with you?
I don't. But back to the military ones, you know where the phrase cold feet came from?
No, I like
Back
that.
in revolutionary times, soldiers whose feet were frozen and were unable to rush into battle were said to have cold feet.
Literally cold feet.
They literally had cold feet.
Wow.
Cold feet. Yeah.
That's another one that's super obvious, right?
Yeah.
That's funny. I'm trying to quickly actually look up here tomfoolery, but it looks like it's too long of a definition. It's got
there's a couple that are kind of
it's actually a multi-part word that they put together, and it looks like it's got a story.
Well, one of my favorite ones ever, and my buddy of mine used to go to bars and say this to people just to get their reaction because we were drunk and being stupid, and we'd say, "Hey, I like the cut of your jib."
The cut of your jib. Okay, where's that come from?
Cut of your jib came from. So I'm going to try to read this one because I don't remember it. Sir Walter Scott brought this phrase into common use around 1824. What is a jib? A jib is actually the rectangular sail that is used on sailing ships, and each country has its own style. So that was a way of determining what country you were from because of the shape of your jib or the cut of your jib.
What?
Okay.
Sailing term.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I got another sailing term that I actually did write down, but I remembered it. It was showing your true colors. And
I think I remember this.
Apparently, in international waters, this is old days. I don't think this probably doesn't still apply today. Ships were identified by flying the flag of their country, right? Well, if they weren't attacking, they would fly flags of tons of different countries.
Wasn't it to confuse?
Well, it was so that they weren't identified until it was time to be attacked. So if another ship came and it happened to be from a country that your country was at war with or didn't like, they didn't know what the idea was, that they wouldn't know what country you actually came from until you decided to attack or not attack. Then when you attacked, you would take down all the other flags, put your flag up and say, ha ha, I'm actually your enemy and now I'm attacking you. So that was showing your true colors, true colors of your flag, of your true flag.
Okay.
Wow. That's a pretty good one.
I just remember that too, I guess.
Well, one of my favorite phrases is the Real Mccoy.
Uh-huh.
And the reason I remember this one because when I was in college and doing history stuff, we actually wrote a report about this because it was about the Prohibition. Mm-hmm. Prohibition. Yeah, it was about Prohibition. So in the 30s, when you take all the East Coast and New York and everybody, all of a sudden we've got no alcohol. And so, of course, obviously you have speakeasies and all these people that want to have alcohol and bring stuff in. So a lot of wealthy people that own ships or small boats or whatever, sailing vessels, started making trips to Europe to buy booze. And at that time, you could come in, and you can kind of still do this now. If you're 2 miles outside of any country is considered an international border. Mm-hmm. So what would happen is these guys that owned ships or small sailing vessels that they could load up with booze, they would go to Europe or whatever they want to go, buy booze, come back, and stay outside of that 2 mile radius offshore, and other boats would come out and buy booze from these ships to take back to like the speakeasies and stuff. Mm-hmm. So this guy McCoy is a fairly wealthy guy. He had a pretty nice ship. So he started going and buying like expensive alcohols, like expensive whiskeys and wines and everything else. He didn't want to buy the cheap stuff, and a lot of people were buying the cheap stuff. He went after the most expensive stuff he could possibly get. Well, because a lot of the expensive stuff he bought was in places like Italy, they packed it, and obviously it's before packing peanuts, mm-hmm. They would pack things in sand. So they would boxes and put sand in. That was a common way to pack something. It's like glass. Yeah, it was very heavy. And so they're on ships. So because they were coming from these different regions, the sand had a different kind of a texture and look to it. It was completely different than what everybody else was bringing. And so McCoy basically decided, because he knew all these aristocrats in New York, he would come back with the most expensive wine, the most expensive whiskey he could possibly bring. And people started wanting that because they could afford it. And so when someone would say, hey, I got some of this stuff from it, and they would say, is that the Real McCoy? Because they could see from the box and the packing with the sand and everything that was in it, whether it was the Real McCoy or not.
Sand? Okay. Who would have thought sand could be that important?
Right.
Man.
I always thought it was a crazy story.
That is. That's cool.
But you think of all the things that happened because of different laws and during, it's Prohibition time.
Yeah.
People were smuggling. And I mean, everybody at that point was smuggling booze and whatever they could.
Yeah. Nobody stopped drinking.
Nobody stopped drinking, yeah.
Of course not.
It just gave cops jobs.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The only thing that actually happened during Prohibition was it did make an awareness to Americans that alcohol can be unhealthy, consumed regularly, and out of control. Because for a long time, you think about that era of time, we still were struggling to get like clean water and things like that. So a lot of people would only drink things that were distilled because they thought they were healthier for them. Yeah. So people drink a lot more booze back then.
You'd have think what they should have taken from it was Prohibition doesn't work.
Right. Let's not use this on other things.
Yeah. How many years later before they finally figure out, hey, let's legalize marijuana?
I don't know.
I got another one. If you okay, and this one's I found like 3 or 4 different meanings for this, but the one I liked the best was they're all kind of along the same lines, and that is the silver lining. Find the silver lining in something, and what that means is if you've got something that's all bad, something happens in your life, and every way you look at it, it's all bad, but there's one good thing that came out of it. That little good thing would be the silver lining. And the origin I heard for it was coffins, if you were wealthy enough to have a coffin, a nice coffin, used to have in the sheets that line the inside of the coffin a silver leaf foil that was on the lining of the sheet in there. But it was real silver, apparently, because that's the only way they had that shiny silver material. And you were dead. So the point was you were dead, but you got silver lining that you're now wrapped in, right? So it can't be all bad. You're wrapped in a minor amount of silver.
Wow.
All right.
That's a good one. How about one for the road?
Okay.
No, one for the road.
Let's hear it. So how about one for the road, and that be the one for the road?
Right. So during the Middle Age or the medieval times, there was obviously a lot of these origins came from there. So if someone was going to be executed in this town, they would take them down the street that had all these pubs and bars and stuff to them, and they would walk them through this bar, and as a last request, they would allow them to stop and have a drink.
Nice.
And it was called One for the Road before their execution.
Your Green Mile.
Wow.
Sheesh.
Dead man walking.
Dead man walking
man.
here.
Right.
Wow, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of the dead man walking thing. And I was trying to remember the dead man walking. I didn't look that one up at all.
I don't know. I just remember from the Green Mile. Yeah.
The Green Mile.
All right. Are we out? I think
So.
I think we're good. We hope you guys enjoyed that. And if you want us to do another episode on that, let us know. I'm sure we could compile another list of. There's a lot of them out there. There's
a lot
fun.
of crazy, weird, funny, goofy origins of things.
Things that we just say and don't even think about and use all the time, and you never
coined the phrase.
Yeah, I never stopped to think. Damn, where did that come from? So
right.
Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that, and thank you for listening. Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address, greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com, or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.